There is a moment that changes everything. It is not when you raise your voice. It is not when you push harder or argue longer. It is not when you plead, justify yourself, or try to prove your worth. It is the moment you turn away and leave without saying a single word. That is when the balance shifts. That is when attention sharpens. That is when the dynamic changes completely. Most people spend their lives trying to be noticed, trying to be heard, trying to feel important. They cling, they pursue, they bargain for small pieces of validation, like people starving for approval. And the world looks at this behavior with quiet disregard. But the one who learns how to walk away becomes something different. That person becomes unresolved. They become the thought that returns late at night. They become the absence that refuses to fade. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. Power is not granted to those who demand it. Power moves toward those who can exist without it. When you walk away, you are signaling that you are not dependent on anyone's approval. That independence is dangerous. That is the moment others begin to pursue you. This is the psychology of absence. There is something about the human mind that most people never recognize. The mind does not desire what it already possesses. It desires what feels out of reach. This is not speculation or belief. It is a basic function of human psychology. When you are constantly present, always available, always reachable, you lose distinction. You fade into the background. You become predictable and easily overlooked. But the moment you step back, something changes. Your absence creates contrast. You are no longer ordinary. You become uncertain. You become the missing element that draws attention. This is the power of absence, and it outweighs any argument or explanation you could offer. Machiavelli wrote that people desire what they cannot have and lose respect for what is given too easily. He was not theorizing. He was describing how people behave. When you remove yourself from someone's life, you create an empty space. And the human mind struggles with emptiness. It fills that space with imagination, with memory, with second thoughts. People replay conversations. They reconsider past interactions. They begin to assign you more importance than they did when you were fully available. This is not manipulation. It is awareness. It is understanding a pattern that operates whether people admit it or not. Absence does not erase your presence. It intensifies it. It forces others to recognize value that they previously ignored. Those who understand this move through life with a quiet authority that others notice but cannot explain. And now you are beginning to recognize it as well. The Machiavellian reality of value. There is one principle that changes how everything is viewed. Your value is not defined by what you offer. It is defined by how difficult you are to access. This is the distinction between confidence and desperation. You may be intelligent, loyal, capable, and reliable. But if you give unlimited access to your time, respond instantly to every request, and make yourself constantly available, you signal that your time has little worth. And people respond accordingly. Machiavelli observed royal courts and centers of power. He saw highly capable individuals dismissed, while less skilled figures rose to influence. The difference was not talent. It was positioning. Those who advanced understood that scarcity creates value. They understood that a leader who is too accessible becomes ordinary, and what feels ordinary loses respect. This understanding must be internalized. You are not something waiting to be selected. You are something rare, encountered by few. But this cannot be performed. Scarcity cannot be staged while you wait for attention. It must be real. Your life must be full. Your purpose must demand focus. Your standards must limit access naturally. When your attention truly becomes valuable, there is no need for strategy or performance. At that point, everything changes on its own. The dynamic runs on its own. They sense your value because it shows through your detachment. They pursue you because they know you could leave at any time and never return. And that possibility unsettles them. The weakness of pursuit. Pay close attention here, because this is where most men undo themselves. They believe chasing shows strength. They believe persistence proves character. They believe that displaying how much they care will eventually change someone's mind. This belief is taught early, and it is false. The reality is much harsher. Pursuit is submission. The moment you chase, you surrender leverage. You signal that the other person is the reward and that you are the one asking. And human nature has never respected someone who begs. Machiavelli warned that a man who shows excessive eagerness will not be overlooked, but despised. There is a psychological response that rejects desperation. Chasing activates contempt. Relentless pursuit tells the other person that you have no alternatives, no direction, no value outside their approval. In their perception, you shrink. You become manageable. You become harmless. And harmlessness destroys attraction, erodes respect, and eliminates power. Now consider the man who steps back. He does not plead. He does not justify himself. He does not send long explanations asking for clarity. He simply disappears. In that absence, he becomes unpredictable. He becomes uncertain. He becomes an unresolved question, and the human mind struggles with unanswered questions. The man who chases loses ground. The man who leaves gains more than he pursued. This is not cruelty. It is awareness. You must choose who you will be. The one who spends his life chasing others, or the one so focused on his own path that others are forced to adjust. The calculated use of distance. There is a tool more effective than argument and more powerful than confrontation. That tool is distance, measured, deliberate, controlled distance. Master it and you become difficult to touch. Most people react emotionally. They feel disrespected and respond with anger. They feel ignored and pursue harder. They feel undervalued and work excessively to prove themselves. This is reactive behavior. The Machiavellian mind does not react. It evaluates. It understands that emotional responses place control in someone else's hands. Distance restores control. When you create distance, you leave the other person alone with their choices. There is no debate for them to dominate. No conflict to feed. Only silence. And within that silence, their own thoughts turn inward. They begin to question their actions. They consider whether they crossed a line. They feel the absence of someone who left calmly, without resentment, without explanation. This is strategic disengagement. You are not punishing them. You are declining participation in a situation where you are not respected. That decision carries more weight than any argument. Machiavelli taught that a wise ruler never acts from emotion, only from intent. Your distance must follow the same principle. It does not come from pain. It comes from self-respect. It is the understanding that your time and energy are limited, and you will not invest them without return. When you master this discipline, you stop losing ground. You stop pleading. You stop explaining. You move quietly, and others take notice. The obsession that follows. Here is a difficult truth about human behavior. People do not fixate on what they possess. They fixate on what they lose. When you leave, you do more than exit. You occupy their thoughts. At first, they convince themselves it does not matter. They tell themselves you were replaceable. But time passes, silence grows, and gradually something changes. Thoughts surface unexpectedly. A song recalls your presence. An empty space recalls your absence. A quiet moment reminds them of attention they once received freely and can no longer reach. This is the fixation created by absence. You do not ask for space in their mind. You claim it by leaving. Machiavelli observed that what people struggle hardest to secure is what they fear losing most. When you were available, there was no risk. Once you are gone, uncertainty appears. Doubt follows. They wonder if they misjudged you. They worry they will not find the same connection again. They imagine you moving forward while they remain stuck with their own decisions. This uncertainty becomes obsession. They check from a distance. They ask others about you. They revisit old conversations, searching for missed signs. And the less you engage, the stronger this fixation becomes. This is not mystery or chance. It is the structure of the human mind. You become the unresolved chapter, the unanswered question. And people struggle deeply without closure. You will not offer it. Your silence becomes strength. Your absence becomes confirmation that you were never the one at a loss. Where most men fail, here is where many men collapse, often just as control begins to return. They step away. They create distance. They sense the balance shifting. Then they reverse course. A message appears, and emotion takes over. A hint of interest surfaces, and they rush back. They never truly left. Their actions changed, but their attachment remained. This is the critical mistake. They treat withdrawal as a tactic rather than a change in identity. They use absence to provoke a reaction instead of standing on their own value. Once this is detected, all leverage disappears. They become predictable. They expose desperation disguised as restraint. Machiavelli warned that commitment must be complete. Partial effort invites disrespect. If you walk away, you must accept the possibility of never returning. You must reach a point where their response no longer defines your direction, not through performance but through genuine detachment. This is where most men stop. They remain focused on the result. They leave hoping to be chased. And hope is the chain that keeps them trapped. And that hope is exactly what keeps them powerless. A truly strong man walks away without expectation. He does not check his phone hoping for a message. He does not watch their social media looking for regret. He continues building his life, his purpose, his work. If they return, he evaluates the situation from a place of control. If they do not, he has lost nothing because his stability was never tied to them. This is the line between the novice and the master. The novice relies on tactics. The master has moved beyond the game altogether. This lesson must be fully absorbed. Walking away has no meaning if you are still mentally attached. The departure must be complete. The separation must be final. Only then does real strength emerge, a strength most men never reach. Becoming untouchable. This is the core of the message. The reason these ideas resonate is simple. You want to become untouchable, not arrogant, not emotionally closed for the sake of cruelty, but so firmly rooted in your own foundation that nothing external can shake you. This is the highest level, and it demands more than clever moves. It requires rebuilding who you are. Most men form their identity around external approval. They feel confident when praised and insecure when ignored. Their emotional state is controlled by others because they handed over that control willingly. The untouchable man has removed those ties. He understands something that changes everything. His value is not decided by how others treat him. His value comes from the standard he sets for himself. At this level, rejection loses its power. Not because it does not hurt, but because it cannot reach the core of who you are. Someone leaves, and you allow them to go while continuing forward. Someone disrespects you, and you remove them calmly and move on. Someone fails to recognize your worth, and you understand that this reflects their limitations, not yours. This is what Machiavelli meant when he spoke of a ruler who depends first on himself. External support can collapse. Approval can disappear without warning. But the man who has built a stable inner foundation can lose everything and still stand, because his strength was never borrowed. Becoming untouchable is not about suppressing emotion. It is about controlling it. You feel pain without being ruled by it. You experience rejection without allowing it to define you. You desire connection, but never so much that you abandon yourself to keep it. This is a quiet strength others notice but cannot explain. When an untouchable man enters a space, people sense it. They may not understand why, but they respond differently. Respect appears without demand. Attention follows without pursuit. They recognize that you are operating at a level they have not reached. That presence, that independence from approval, makes you impossible to forget. You are no longer participating in the game. You have become it. And once you arrive here, there is no return. You will never again beg for what you can build within yourself. There comes a moment when others finally recognize your value. It does not happen when you expect it or watch for it. It only arrives after you no longer need it. At first, they believed they could move on without you. They convinced themselves you were replaceable. They told themselves your absence was a relief, even a victory. But reality dismantles illusions. Days become weeks. Weeks become months. Gradually, truth breaks through denial. They notice that no one listens the way you did. No one challenges them the way you did. No one creates the same impact you once had. The people who replaced you feel shallow and predictable. And in that emptiness, your absence grows louder. Regret begins quietly, passing thought. Perhaps I misjudged them. Perhaps I let go of something rare. That thought grows. They begin watching from a distance. They see you advancing. They see you building. They see you becoming the person they never believed you could be. And that realization hurts. They had access to you when you were open and available. They chose to walk away. Now the space is filled, and their place no longer exists. Machiavelli observed that people rarely value what they have until it is gone. This is not resentment. It is simply how desire works. Value is often recognized through loss. Your absence becomes the reflection they cannot escape. This is where discipline matters most. When they attempt to return, and many will, you must not collapse. You must not undo your progress simply because they finally see what was always there. The version of you they dismissed no longer exists. The version that waited and pleaded is gone. What remains is stronger and unreachable. You evaluate their return rationally, not emotionally. You decide whether they deserve access to who you have become. And if the answer is no, you close the door without hesitation. The man who walks away and never turns back cannot be controlled. Their realization is not your reward. The man you became in their absence is. The final law: walk and never look back. This is not an ending. It is a beginning. Everything here leads to one principle. The law that separates the forgettable from the unforgettable, the weak from the untouchable. Walk away and never look back. This is not a temporary strategy. It is a way of living. A firm commitment to your own path. The world will test you. People will mistake kindness for weakness. They will interpret patience as desperation. They will push limits to see what you accept. In those moments, you choose. You can stay and negotiate for respect that should already exist. Or you can turn away and move forward without regret. The man who lives by this law becomes untouchable because he cannot be manipulated. Threats hold no weight because he is always willing to leave. Guilt has no power because his worth is not defined by those who failed to recognize it. Fear of solitude disappears because he understands that solitude is where strength is built. Machiavelli taught that a ruler must be willing to be feared rather than loved if forced to choose. This is not cruelty. It is clarity. Walking away without looking back is the declaration that your self-respect is not negotiable. You are declaring to the world that you would rather stand firmly in your own strength than remain surrounded by those who reduce your worth. And the world responds to that choice. Cannot ignore it. Those you leave behind will feel the absence you create. They will question how you found the resolve to do what they never could. They will replay the moment you walked away and wonder why they were not enough to make you stay. But you will not be there to answer. You will already be far ahead, building a life they will only hear about from a distance. This is what awaits you when you commit to this principle. Not revenge, not resentment, but complete freedom. The freedom to decide who earns your presence. The freedom to step away from anything that limits your growth. The freedom to move through life knowing you are not dependent on any one person, any single opportunity, or any specific outcome. You are the origin of your own strength. And that strength cannot be taken from you, because it was never granted by anyone else. You now carry this understanding with you, not as something you heard once, but as a rule engraved into who you are. The next time someone fails to value you, you will not argue. You will not justify yourself. You will not plead. You will remember this moment and you will leave. If this message has sparked something within you, if you feel a shift beginning, then demonstrate it. Leave a comment below saying, "I walk alone. I rise alone. I win alone." Let it stand as your declaration that the old version of you no longer exists. Let it mark your commitment to the man you are becoming. And if these words carried weight for you, if something has changed in a lasting way, do not let this moment fade. Press the like button now. It costs nothing, but it helps this message reach others who are ready to hear it. Subscribe to the channel so you do not miss what comes next. Turn on notifications, because what is being built here is a community of men who refuse to settle, refuse to plead, and refuse to disappear. This is your time. This is your moment. Now walk forward and do not look back.